Okay, so we're gonna do a video on remapping. This is driver's wish. This is pretty much the backbone to remapping. It's what's the first file really you touch on and look at when you're remapping. So we're gonna import in an EDC17 ECU. So here's the 2-liter diesel Golf. So let's look at that. We can see here we have a lot of files done already, but we'll just open up, let's open up this vrace dpf egrf file. So you can see one it's already been recognized, so we're just going to ignore that, hit OK, wait for it to find the checksums. We'll correct them. It is a C64 21DT. Yeah, so we're just going to ignore that and go to the proper. So when you're looking at these files, you want to look at 16-bit for Bosch anyways. Now, just in context, the EDC17 ECUs, if you don't understand EDC16 ECUs, you shouldn't be looking at this. Mainly because of it's the massive amount of additional complexity. Like just all this data here, the EDC16 ECU, that won't even be there. Or you'll only have this, and it'll be a lot shorter. So, and also for EDC17, there's a lot of injection-related maps in the beginning, like that right there. I think that was fuel rail right there. Anyways, if you go on, EGR, DPF, these are all disabled, so you can see all these high blocky bits, and then you can see stuff like that. That's probably boost. There's a lot of additional complexity, so I'm actually going to not look at this file, but I am just going to quickly find the driver's wish maps. Here they are right here. So the driver's wish maps, there is never one, or maybe on EDC15, like the super simple ECUs, there's maybe one, but in all EDC16 and 17 ECUs, you're going to find at least 3 or 4 driver's wish, and the EDC17, you're going to find one. They're usually either 8x14 or 8x16. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 maps. You might be wondering why on earth do you need 6 maps? That's for like under generation, not under generation, when you have in sport mode, non-sport mode. So these are actually selected. These different maps are selected according to the scenario that the car is in. So I actually like it like that better. So we're just going to look at the first one here. We're going to open it. Oh, made a ball of that. So if we go straight to the text, they have a very unique look. And what I mean by that is you'll always have zeros leading like this, and then numbers that go from small to large, and then obviously right here the maximum. So this right here might look of very odd figures, but this is actually our engine speed, and that's in RPMs obviously, and we have an offset of 0.5 for the EDC17s, and for the EDC16 is 0.1. I'll show you what I mean by that later. So let's hit OK. Now you can see this is more of a reasonable looking, actually rational looking numbers, 400, 600, 800, blah blah blah, jumping through the thousands and all that kind of thing. And this right here is our pedal percentage. So how hard or how far we've pushed down the pedal is demanding how much torque is for EDC16, EDC17 ECUs. How much torque is being demanded, aka the driver's wish, what the driver wishes to get. And this is an offset of, I think it's 0.01227. There you go, perfect. So now you can see we have 100% down to 1, so you can see it's, and then the ECU kind of guesses in between these numbers, like an intermediate between these two numbers. So we kind of know it's, well, as you can see right here, it has all the figures you can think of. Now, obviously, this is a 2 litre diesel Golf, and the power or the torque it would output is nowhere near this 4,800. So this is obviously by another factor of 0.1. And now you can see rational figures. So you can see when we're at 1% throttle and no RPM, it's asking for 127 Newton meter torque, which is impossible. But this is obviously the idle speed. This is how much. But you can see at 100% at low, it's asking for everything. So, but it's all relative. So basically, if we're at, for example, a more reasonable RPM of around 1500 RPM, and our foot is flat, it's going to demand the maximum amount of torque. But then you can see in the higher RPMs, at just after 5000, it actually drops quite significantly from 480 down to 324. So basically, after you rev past 5000 RPM, it's not going to demand so much power, it's not going to inject so much fuel. So it's a self-limiting map is what we call this. So it's self-limiting. And you want to, whenever you are remapping, you want to keep that. You want to set a point where you're like, okay, if whoever's driving this car decides to push past a ridiculous amount of RPM for a diesel car anyways, let's limit the power. So that's exactly what this is. And you could even go as far as making all these figures 0. So the minute they hit past 5000, it would just cut the power completely. Wouldn't suggest that. It would be probably a bad idea, because if they are up that high at the higher RPM, they're probably going very quick, and a sudden cut of power could cause something. So you want to kind of just, I could go over original. Yeah, no, this is the original import, but originally this is probably in the 300s. So we went up 180 Newton meters of torque increase. So this is only driver's wish 1, we'll call it. And you will see these will actually be slightly different to each other. So I'm going to show you. You can see they all kind of have this dip. That dip is the high RPM. It reaching the high RPM. So I keep jumping into that. Same thing. So this is driver's wish 2. 2. Driver's wish 3. Driver's wish 4. Driver's wish 5. Oh, you can see here it's only demanding 450 Newton meters of torque. Now you might be wondering, why does that demand 480 and this demands 450? It could be a lot of things. I don't have a Damus or a what's it called? It's like a Damus, or it's basically a file that finds all these maps for you, and it automatically applies like the offsets, and it tells you what's what and all that kind of thing. So actually, this could be like first, second, third. This could be like fourth gear, maybe fourth gear, and the gearbox is weaker or something like that. This could be, so sorry, that one's already saved, isn't it? Yeah. This means this could be like, it's highly unlikely, but this could be for reverse example. When it's in reverse, it just demands slightly a bit less power. To be honest, it depends, because I didn't actually map this file myself. But what you could easily do is you could keep all these maps the same and change one, and you see when that effect takes effect. You could pretty much limit your car to, you could actually just change all of these. 0.1. You could change all of these to like 100, so your car will actually only output 100 Newton meters of torque. If you have a daughter who has a car and it's way too quick for them, you could literally remap their car so it only outputs half of the power. This is the only map you would need to change. So So yeah, if you wanted badly to find out what map is for what, you could literally, an example, this could be like when traction control is off, for example. So you could then rename it. You could then put a comment. You could go here and comment and be like, and then when you can come back into this file and you'll know exactly what this particular map is for, and then you could actually have a switch basically for stage 1. You can have a stage 1 switch basically, so you could change all the other required maps for that kind of power, like 480 newton meters of torque, and you can only change the driver's wish to push actually that much when the traction control is off. You could basically have your car bone stock when it's on, and then actually remap when it's off. That's something very cool you can do with mapping. So that would take a long time. You'd be flashing, changing, driving it. So it would probably take you the full day to find out what each one of these maps are for. Or you could probably do it in twos. You could probably do one 100 newton meters of torque and one like slightly higher but not the maximum. You could probably tell the difference. But this is driver's wish 5, and this is driver's wish 6, and that's the same. Like that. And then we have another one right here. This is 12 by 12, but that's nothing pretty much. That's just an empty map, you could say. Not really actually. I'm not going to touch on that today or at all because it's not related to mapping, but this right here is the heart of mapping. So you'll always find these maps in bundles like this, and I'll just show you see it, Leon. So here's the EDC16 ECU. Look at the difference in complexity of the data. It's just this little chunk. That's all there is. That's where all the fault codes are stored. That's where all the boost, the ejection, everything here, because this is actually a PD engine. And there you go. As I was saying, EDC17, the driver's wish, and pretty much everything else. Like, you'll probably find the torque map after this as well. That's EGR. Looking, I think I just skipped it. Probably not that. It looks like it though. We'll just touch on it really quickly. There they are. So here's our torque maps. You can see how much torque, the torque limitation map. You can see here. So our driver's wish is asking for 480, but our torque limiter map is actually only allowing a maximum of 420. Sorry, 43. Well, that's obviously not right. We'll do our offset to that, and we can see, there we go. So actually our maximum amount of torque is only being given at 3750, and that's 4300, and our other one was 480. So 4300, 4380 is pretty much nothing really. But that just goes to show you that that driver's wish could be as high as possible. That could be 900 newton meters of torque. But if your torque limitation map isn't up to spec or up to par or at the limit of where your driver's wish is, example, like that's when your foot's flat down, it's going to demand 480, but then it's going to come and look at the torque limitation map, and straight away it's only going to allow 430. So that's just that. We'll touch on the torque limitation map after, but just to show you guys, here are the driver's wish for an EDC16 ECU. It's at the very beginning of the file, very defined. These are 8x16, as I was saying. These were, so as I was saying, there's a massive difference in complexity in EDC17 and EDC16 ECUs. So again, here is our driver's wish on an EDC16. So we're going to open up this. Exactly the same as I was saying, but this is a bone stock file. So you can see here it's only demanding 390, but even for a 1.9 PD, 390 is it's never going to reach that much. So, and then you can see it's only demanding that pretty much up until 600 RPM, which means it'll never actually ever, 390 will actually never actually be used. Let's look at more reasonable RPM. With 2 grand. So you can see here at 100% flat to the floor at 2000 RPM, it's only going to ask for 330. That's more realistic. But then if we come and look at this spec sheet of this exact engine, you can see it's only actually going to output 250 Nm of torque at 1900 RPM. So if we look at 19, well, 2 grand is pretty much 19. You can see 330. And then you're thinking, well, how come it only outputs what is it, 250? Let's look at a torque limitation map of this car. It's super simple, these EDC16 ECUs. I love them. Very easy to get a hang of. So you just skip along, you'll be fine. These guys, these are your torque limitation maps, can't miss them. Boost, torque to IQ. And we're pretty much almost done with the battery. We've just done a few clicks. This is probably start injection back there. And right there, it's familiar. What EGR maps. Oh, let's get right over. That looks like it right there. Isn't it wrong? So yeah, maps, none of them look familiar to you. Make sure you're in high-low or low-high, some father difference. Actually, when I was pretty good at guessing which one it is, but just in case, for example, yeah. There we are. We clicked right over it. It's pretty small compared to the EDC. You can see just so much, and I'll tell you exactly what that is if it lets me actually open it. This is your actual atmospheric pressure. So the engineers have thought about this. They're thinking, well, if you're going up a mountain or going up a hill or going for a long drive up the hills and there's no air, or the air pressure is very low, aka not in the 1000 millibars or the 975 millibar region, it's going to be more in around 7 or 500. Now, this file wasn't remapped by me, but you can see all these figures are the exact same for low pressure and high pressure. That's wrong, which is why I don't get files done by other people anymore. I do them myself, because if I were to drive my car up the mountain and it's asking for 430 Nm of torque when there's half the atmospheric pressure, the turbo would just spin faster and faster and faster, trying to achieve the boost to get that kind of power, and it would melt your turbine. So what I typically do is I map up until about 800 and I do those changes, and I keep the stock levels at 5 to 700. That's what I do, and that way if someone is driving up a mountain, it reverts back to the stock power level, which is kind of like a switch in a way in the map. So these maps can be very intelligent. You can actually tune them or tailor them exactly to your needs, but again, tuners don't ask these kind of questions, they just go ahead and do it. But here is the original, and you'll see what I mean here. This is the original torque map of this Seat Leon. So you can see it goes from 600 millibars to 930, and then obviously if it's higher than 930, it'll just use these values, and if it's lower than 600, it'll bottom out at these values. So you can see here, at 2000 RPM, it allows 270 Nm of torque, whereas if the pressure is very low, it'll only allow 240. So it's quite a difference. And here it's even bigger difference, 240. But we can see the maximum amount of torque this car will actually produce, or allow it to produce, at the perfect atmospheric pressure, ignoring the driver's wish, is 2780, which is, as I was saying, for EDC17 to 0.1, 278 to 70, which is very close to our 250 Nm of torque, not our 390 that we saw on the driver's wish. So again, the driver's wish can pretty much ask whatever it wants, but if the other related maps, the limiters, like torque limiter in particular, is not actually complementing the driver's wish, it'll never actually produce that kind of torque. So yeah, I'll just save that. So yeah, just driver's wish, they're all bunched together. They're all 8x14/8x16 maps. They're all kind of like this. They have a very undistinguishable, a very distinguishable look, hard to miss. And if you want to look at them 3D view, they will always have this kind of this look to them, flat, and then it kind of, they move up aggressively in that kind of manner. So there you go, there's driver's wish for you.